So Ford Taylor, founder of Transformational Leadership, business consultant. In his bio, I think I heard that it takes mom and pops from small businesses to multi-million, and that would be one of ours. So we started kind of a smaller business. And I'll just say my bio for you is when we did a pre-production meeting yesterday, I told our team, I told our crew that there is no way that Jeffrey B. Culinary Entertainment would be what it is today if it wasn't for you. Wholeheartedly, my family would admit that. We wouldn't have this dining room, we wouldn't have this restaurant if it wasn't for Ford. We wouldn't have the family dynamic. And so I would say life coach, family coach, counselor, dad, all the things, and especially for Caleb, you know, how instrumental you've been for our marriage. Again, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So take what you will out of that, all the things. But to me, and I think to Caleb, that is who Ford Taylor is. So welcome to the 5-Star Podcast.
Thank you, Brittany.
It's come full circle. Here we are, Ford.
Thank you. You brought tears to my eyes a little too early there, girl. I love you both. Thanks for having me on the show. It's humbling and it's an honor to be here, but to also get to work with you and your family and the company and the foundation. It's just it's been a blessing. I assure you, you've done as much for me as I have for you. So thank you.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that one, but we'll take the compliment. I think. If we're talking about how do you introduce our friend Ford Taylor to the audience and listening and all the people that don't know Ford, I mean, a lot of people that know us know you, so people that follow us on the podcast and stuff like that. I think I would say what's an interesting thought I had is that you might be the primary inspiration kind of for the podcast, at least for me, when I thought about doing a podcast. About, man, we've had so much help in our lives from other people for really, really big challenges and big problems for us that we've had for our whole lives, since we've known each other at least. And you probably have been involved in more helping and solving things for us than anybody else. And so I think, you know, the biggest compliment I give you maybe is that you might be the primary inspiration behind us doing a podcast and writing a book and things like that, just because you've helped us so much over the course of our relationship and our lives that we've kind of inspired us to help other people and hopefully use some of the things we've learned from you and other people, but a lot of it has come from you. So we appreciate you and we love you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Great point.
Thank you. I love you dearly. So thank you.
Yeah. No, I love that. Wow. Well, we're getting real deep real soon. Real quick here. Maybe just we'll kick off with how we met. Who wants to take that one?
I'll start.
You start.
How about that?
Sure.
So we'll try to keep most of it concise. I mean, we can go to the Ford. Where's your new website now? Where's all your information at?
Transformlead.com.
Okay.
We still have the Ford Taylor Talks website, but we're trying to shift everything back over to Transform Lead.
Okay. So we can go all the background, all the bios, all the research on you on your you have your own podcast too, Ford Taylor Talks and TransformLead.com and all those things. But all I know is we were just actually talking about this earlier a little bit. For me, it was around 2012, and it was right on the tail end of a huge time of transformation in my personal life. And meeting you was a big part of that, and it was right kind of on the tail end of everything. It was fall of 2012, and the gentleman that I had had a relationship with in city servants in Cincinnati, an intentionally diverse group of faith leaders in Cincinnati. One of them, Terry Fisher, mentioned that I should check out this leadership training from a guy named Ford Taylor. Thought I'd be interested in being my wheelhouse and maybe even help me learn something. So I checked it out and went to your Transformational Leadership, and the rest is history. I mean, it's funny because now you do it for hundreds of people and big businesses and governments and everything else. And the one I went to in 2012, it was still a circle of 30 people and enough chairs where you can have one group kind of together, not a giant auditorium full of people. It was just like a small group, like our own little private Ford Taylor
blew up.
right, transformational leadership session. So it was really fun, and it helped change my life and really confirmed a lot of things that I've been going through, but also taught me some stuff too. So it was definitely, it was a life-changing thing. It was really fun. It was really exciting. And I think for me, it was at the time, it was the first event or experience I'd gone to where people didn't just talk the whole time, where it was more interactive and more application of what you were talking about, taking more time to answer specific and deep questions about things, and then like trying really hard to get people to follow up and like, here's the stuff you have to do. It's not every conference, on the planet talks about the what. You can read a million books, but most people don't talk about how to do that thing. And with Ford being focused on that, that's why so many people show up. I think, at least initially, the first time they go, a lot of people are just, their minds are blown. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. Like, how did I miss this? Like, this is great. It's life-changing. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on mine, unless I missed something.
No, I remember that day, and one of the things I remember is that the University of Arkansas was playing Texas A&M in football, and what people don't know is I'm a raving college football fan.
Unless they know you.
If they know me,
they know you're
that.
a raving fan.
And so, a lot of people think when we're doing the breakout sessions, it's for you, but actually it's giving me a chance to watch the football game while y'all are working. No,
Empty box.
I'm kidding. But I remember looking out at you and giving the score of the game and winking at you because we happened to be winning that one, which was not always the norm for A&M, as you know. And I'll never forget, you came up after and asked me would I mentor you. And when a young man like yourself has the courage and the humility to come ask something like that, it's hard to say no. And I do have to sometimes. And I told you, let me pray about it, and I did. And I got back to you and said, let's do this and let's see where it goes. And that's how we got started.
Mm-hmm.
And you changed our lives about 3 days after that, maybe a couple weeks. Which really, that's the catalyst for the 5-Star Life, our book, our marriage, our testimony. And so my perspective, is you changed everything for the good. And Caleb became, when obviously coming out of football, career-ending injury, back injury, significantly depressed, severe depression, to be able to come in at that moment. And I'm proud of you, too, for stepping up and saying, will you mentor me? I never really heard it that way, and thank you for saying yes. Then Caleb drinks the Kool-Aid, and he's like, you got to get to one of these TL trainings, Brittany. And it was funny because I was sitting here sweating thinking about our first one at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse.
I love the story of the first one.
Oh, wow.
How you were sweating bullets.
So my personal, how did I meet Ford? First asked permission. I think you recommended that too. Please go to your father, and if I'm going to mentor you in business. And he said, sure.
And of course, I loved my first meeting with you. We walked in, and the first thing you did was you stuck your hand out and said, my name's Brittany. I owe you an apology.
Oh,
I don't know if
really?
you remember that at the precinct. You said that. And I said, you do, and I'm listening because, my dad jokes are always coming. And then you just said, sorry.
I
I
want
said,
to teach you how to
good.
do a 6-step right here, right now.
Follow me. But I didn't do that. But anyway, and then you sat down and started talking to Sandra. I'll never forget, Caleb and I, we have no space.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking to people, we're nose to nose.
Yeah, you're both from Texas.
And so the two of us were like talking like this.
Never
and I'll
met a
never
stranger.
forget, you looked up and said, guys, that's gross. Step away. And so we were
What's
just
wrong
having,
with you two?
so the whole initial reactions were almost family right from the get-go.
Yeah.
It just felt
Yeah,
that
you guys
way.
had a bromance. I love Sandra, though, so that's okay. Stick me alone with Sandra all day long.
I agree.
Amazing.
Everybody agrees.
Anyway.
But so I asked permission. He said yes, which was great. And by permission, because you were really going to, as great as you are counseling, you're wicked smart when it comes to financials and business acumen. And so advising on our company outside of my dad. So I grew up and I always remembered, my dad's home office was in our living room. So he had a huge desk in our living room where he would watch football, look out at the river. Kids are running around like crazy. He had comment cards all over his desk. That's the way that he stayed in touch with the guests to know exactly and he read every single comment card that came across his desk.
Yeah, I believe it.
And financials splattered everywhere. And so we had the income statements for, at this point, I think it was like 3 restaurants, right at the time.
Right.
And which I love that's the childhood memories that I had.
Sure.
And so I grew up learning how to look at our business through the lens of Jeff Ruby. And then Ford came and you put your readers on. Go ahead, do it for the camera. He's like, all right, and we're at Bronte, which you should pay rent there because that's like where you would meet everybody in Hyde Park. Yeah. And we sat down for like 4 hours, and you spread out all the P&Ls next to each other. And it was way before AI. So, AI could do this probably in 5 seconds,
really.
But your brain worked like ChatGPT. So chat for Taylor. And you went through it, and you basically diagnosed everything that was going on with the restaurant, so quick. And it was just a different way of looking at it. It's like, you're not paying rent here at the precinct, but you're paying rent here. So, it was just, gross margin should be similar across the board.
Right.
Why is this one not making sense? And, your profit over here, I mean, you have you're doing the same type of business. So let's look at it. And remember, the report was actually a tale of two restaurants. So we compared Louisville to Cincinnati, and that's what got my brain looking, just through our business in a different lens. And so I was managing for a long time at one of the restaurants, and then finally went to the home office. And it was during that time period. I remember we had, 8 employees. You're like 6 of them are highly dysfunctional. We do a TL, and we're like, he said, you're going to learn about lean inners and lean outers, and we're about to either lean in some people or you got to lean them out because your culture is not where it needs to be. Culture was really not in a good place. We were finally at Ruby's with all the GMs and the restaurant managers, and people were, we've had people actually they have to leave. I had one guy, 10 years after that, and felt really convicted about something going on in his life. He starts vomiting, he gets sick, and then the next day he's out on sabbatical. However, credits you for changing his life. And I think that was the lesson was, my dad's like, Brittany, they're not teaching this over at Hilton. Now it's not as taboo because I think people understand that with leadership, you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to share what's going on personally. You have to be able to relate to the team. And hello, this is why it's like we put it out there. And you put everything out there. You start with your suicide letter. And even, we could, we've had people hand over suicide letters to you. You've been empowered to work with HR before. And we had that happen. You've saved lives through transformational leadership and doing that in our restaurants. The gift and the value of when you do bring this to light through your own personal testimony, you're not judging anybody in the room. You're just sharing your story, which I'm going to hand it off to you. It teed that up for you to just talk a little bit about it. But when you've seen so many people radically transformed, but you said that day, I go forward, I don't know, we're on a break. I'm sweating. I'm like, this is not anything we've ever done anything like this. And you're just like, Brittany, do you think that there's anyone in this room that could be struggling with right now infidelity, has something that they feel like they want to go home and confess, or maybe they're doing something, or just struggling with social anxiety. Yes, I knew that, or dealing with any sort of depression. Yes, we know that. Just trust me, stay the course. And there were 2 people, a couple of folks that just didn't ever want to get on board, and you're like, that's okay. Everybody else is, right? It takes 3 to 5% to shift a culture, good or bad. Mm-hmm. I'm quoting TL, by the way. I'm like a walking manual.
Yes, you are. I love that.
But you're like, you lean those people out, watch your culture shift, and did it shift? Yeah. So.
Yeah, and well done. A lot of leaders don't have the courage to do that, but once you were made president of Jeff Ruby's, everything, in my opinion, cultural, really started shifting. And your dad, I even told you when you said come in, I'd like to get permission from your dad. And we had like a 4-hour dinner, and for him to be able to say, because this is his baby,
right?
The man's brilliant.
Yeah.
You're not here without the guy, and so for him to say, I'll trust Brittany enough to let you come in. That
he did trust me.
He did. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
I don't know why. I don't know that I trusted myself at the time.
No, but I'm just saying.
It's
but
meaningful.
That was big because this is his baby, and for him to slowly start turning his baby over, that wasn't an easy thing.
No,
and it shouldn't be because he did a lot.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we start talking about what is transformational leadership? There's so much for you to share, and you can share what you want to about it. But I think it might be an okay place to start. Is why Brittany was so intentional about her timing, and she wasn't hesitant. It was more, I feel like she's trying to be, HR compliant, and this is for example, this is a faith-based podcast to an extent because God is the most important thing in our lives. But this is for us, it's a take it or leave it kind of thing. We're not the kind of person who's going to try to shove something down people's throats. We want people to have free will. It's just for us, it's like we read the Bible. God gave us free will to make a choice, and everybody else has one. So we're kind of trying to mimic that same thing. I mean, maybe like with transformational leadership,
walk us through it.
Yeah, walk us through kind of like where it started and like how when you said, man, this stuff is amazing and it transformed my life. Like, how did you get to that place where you said, man, this could really change not just my own personal life, these biblical, Judeo-Christian biblical principles, I can really run a business and make a lot of money and then change other people's lives and help, them feed their families and transform our communities and everything else in the world.
Right. Maybe a little bit about where it came from might be helpful, because that part of the story is a little bit, I think, unique. As y'all both know, I met Sandra when we were in college, and she was a freshman. I was a senior, so I stayed there and ran a sporting goods store. Got hired away to another sporting goods store. Then I got a phone call. They were going to close down our screen printer. We were kind of a small academy before academy. This is years ago. I was 24. And I got a phone call from the bank, and they were going to close down our screen printer. We sold shoes and guns and fishing equipment and softball uniforms, T-shirts, and the screen printer was going bankrupt. You need to find another one. And I said, okay. They called back a couple days later and said, would you like to take on the debt and own this? I talked to Sandra and said, we're young. And so she graduated in May of '82, and we took over this bankrupt company in June. And since we're on a stained glass podcast, by the grace of God, it worked. Without the grace of God, it wouldn't have worked. And over the next 16 years, we became the largest decorated sportswear apparel company in America. And
That's
on the
awesome.
outside, I was the golden boy. I was on the trade journals. Back then, we were about 300 million in sales, and that's back when 300 was a real number. And number 2 was 110 million. So that'll just tell you. And that all started at 183,000 a year.
Wow.
And at one point during all that,
Wow. So you grew a company from when you started 180,000
183 or 88, I can't remember exactly, but
To
it was under
300.
200,000 the first year,
to 300 million.
300 million. And
Under
this
your
is
leadership.
over a 16-year period between 82 and 98.
Wow.
So, but in that process, it's funny because you said something earlier, Caleb, about not being the norm. One of my friends in business got in financial trouble, and they were about to go out, and he called, and he was much older and been around a lot longer, and we got his business taken care of, got it fixed. And the professors from Texas A&M started meeting with us, and they wanted to know, what are you doing? And so we'd meet with them and we'd tell them. And so my professors would say to me, while we were blowing everybody out of the water, in the middle of it, we just built a 28,000 square foot building, meeting with them in this building. We started in a 600 square foot building. And they were, after the meetings, they'd say, that'll never work. What you're doing won't work. And so you're right about this not being the norm. And then eventually, you know the story, a lot of pride, insecurity. With all the insecurity on my part, the arrogance, trying that gap of the real self and the ideal self, who you putting yourself out to be who you really are. I had a big moral failure. And because of Sandra being an angel in a woman's suit and forgiving me, we now are able to use so many of our successes and our failures to help other people. And so when I came out from that, started doing some of the city reaching stuff, that kingdom impact stuff, and I was doing one-off business consulting, kind of one at a time. And one of my clients called me in a room one day and said, when you go in and work with companies or the companies you owned, how often do you get these kinds of results? And his company was, at the time, I think he's told me, was in 18 months was 6 times larger and 10 times more profitable. And I said, every time? And he said, why aren't you using this material to do something bigger like your city impact? And I said, if the leaders knew me, they wouldn't follow me. But he's the one that taught me into bringing 25 people in a room and doing a leadership brain dump. And so the first class we ever did, it was a legal pad and a pen. And it was 6 days over 6 months. And after that, well, you do another one, you do another one.
In my class, you mean the formal transformational leadership training?
Yeah, I did.
It was on legal pad.
So we did 3 of those, kind of with a legal pad. And I think the third time I had 8 pieces of paper, and people were getting hand cramps. And somebody actually from Kim Blanchard's company was there, and they called me the next week and said they had told Ken, we found somebody who's doing what we're trying to do. And he supported, and they offered to do a manual and a PowerPoint. So that's kind of how the thing got started.
That is transformational leadership.
That's when transformational leadership started taking on a name.
Okay.
And it was originally called Crazy Transformational Leadership. It literally had crazy on the manual.
I like that.
And then it went to intentional, so it was called ITL. So it went through a lot of transitions, and but it turned into, and I chose to not travel. Once I told Sandra what I'd done and stay home with the kids, and so people started coming in to Cincinnati from all over to go through the training, and then they started asking me to come out. But in the middle of all this, a few years into it, I took the material to my pastor, and I asked him, by any chance, is any of this in the Bible? And I took it to 3 other pastors who you know a couple of them. And but anyway, my pastor came back and said, you have no idea what you have here. I said, it's in the Bible? And he goes, yeah. I said, where is it? He goes, go find it yourself.
I love that. I
The
remember
other
that.
three
Oh,
came
we're
back.
going to get into it. How to, yeah.
You're right. The
all
other 3
modules.
came back and said, it's not in the Bible. And then they came back and apologized and said, we've just never seen the Bible presented this way before.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So back then there
Fair.
was no plain glass, stained glass. It was all plain glass. I
Right.
mean, we didn't even know
Yeah.
that there was a stained glass component.
And
But
that's
then-
that is so important, because so you have, when you say plain glass versus stained glass, you have a marketplace and then you have a spiritual, kind of ministry model of the same. So 2 days that would be for secular businesses. The 3rd days, if anybody is in ministry or they're curious where all this comes from, feel free to come to the 3rd day, and the 3rd day will explain where all of this stuff comes from in the Bible, right?
Yeah, so that's been the 3-day model in the past.
Did you change it?
Well, what happens though inside of companies is that somebody will notice it.
Yeah,
And-
which is
and
what happened.
here.
Yeah.
And I always just ask you, the
We
CEO.
know you're putting that Christian stuff on us.
And so I just
Okay.
ask the CEO, if I get a question, what do you want me to do?
Yes.
And they almost always say, well, if it's a question, if it's coming from them and they want to talk about it, then you should tell them.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just very careful that I'm not the one.
Yeah,
that
we don't
brings it
care
up.
anymore.
I know,
It's like
I know. But early
news
on,
alert. We're a faith-based company.
Right. So anyway, so they came back, and so I did start reading the Bible through a different lens. I have good friends that were fluent in Hebrew, fluent in Greek, and I started reading the Bible and going, oh, this says something very different than what I was taught in church. I mean,
Right.
no offense, it's just very
Right.
different.
Same.
Yeah.
And then from that, we came up with another training called the Missing Link, which now connects that. And I think y'all know this, but in Africa, we've planted thousands of churches now with the TL material and the foundation.
That's awesome.
The church planters over there the ones we work with, they won't even plant a church unless they turn in their VP MOSA, they adopt the WALA model, they use the V-Steel model, and their social covenants, their membership, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so that's happened, which got the attention of the prime minister in one country, and so we started going over and training them in the whole country, the parliament and the cabinet. All I'm saying is that when we're in governments and we're in education systems and businesses, we're very, very careful that we're not shoving Jesus down people's throats.
Yep.
We love to get the question, what's different about this? What's different about your team? You don't look the same. And so when those questions come, it makes it really simple to make that shift to, well, look, just so you'll know, and then immediately get right back off of it.
Yep.
And go right back
Yeah.
to leadership training. So it actually came from just doing it. And y'all know, I tell people all over, aren't y'all glad I made so many mistakes in my life? Because
You can relate to every single person in that room.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, when you've made those kinds of mistakes and by God's grace you've had those kinds of successes, you just can't throw stones. I mean, there's no one I could judge.
Yeah.
Because I've got all those T-shirts, and well, let's be honest, I made those T-shirts. I was in the apparel business. But anyway, so that's kind of where it came from. And now,
I love it.
It's
Well, we got to get into it.
Okay.
I'm so pumped. Yeah.
No, I do. Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? I was with what he's
Sure.
talking about on the part where he said he's glad he made mistakes on things. It's interesting because on social media, like, okay, so if this sounds crazy, we can skip it and go back into a TL thing. But this is just an interesting point for the podcast, because the culture we're in right now, there's a lot of people that put everything in their life out on social media, right? You got the couple that filmed themselves finding out about the baby and all the things, and there's all this stuff that's crazy out there that people are like, sobbing, catching themselves sobbing, and putting all their personal lives out there. But a lot of times it happens to be for personal gain, right? Or for likes or clicks or views or to make money or whatever it is. And what you've done and taught us, and the inspiration for writing the 5-Star Life book for Brittany and I, was like the biblical foundation, the reason why to actually share your personal life is to help other people, the way that Ford has used it in his trainings. And when he shares something like, man, that he was, inappropriately touched when he was young, and things like that. And there's someone in the room when he shared about that he had a moral failure with his wife and his marriage. It made it a lot easier for me to talk to him about mine and things like that. When you do those things, I don't know. I just thought that was
No, that's
that was
good.
so the opposite
the
end of the spectrum
purpose.
with culture today of like that God set it up when you share those things, that other people, it opens it up for them to share. I don't know.
One thing that Ford has always done is you're always very humble.
Yeah.
And there's zero pride. Why would anybody want to get up and talk about how they lied or cheated
right,
or whatever, was
don't.
sexually abused as a child?
Right.
You
We
know.
don't.
Right.
But there are people who will do that for content and for clicks, and I think it's a very genuine leadership training that would not happen if you did it any other way.
Well, 25 years ago, I got judged by a
Oh.
lot of spiritual religious leaders for doing that.
Me and you,
Really.
I mean,
we had a little judgy,
yeah.
judgy
Yes,
situation
that's
at a
true.
Christian event with thousands of people in there,
Yep.
and it's like some people don't want to hear it; they're not ready to hear it, and you're like, pick up your mat and go then, because this is not.
I'm good with that.
Not. It took me a minute to get good with that one, but we're not going to name any names.
So 25 years ago, that clearly was not the norm.
No.
And again, a lot of judgmentalism from other people
Yeah.
for doing it. But it was like, and like I told you, especially when I really started reading the Bible, it's like, why do we go through all that? Well, number one, it's because we're idiots. I mean, we make bad decisions. But on the other side of it, it's to help other people. I mean, that's it. That's why that should be the outcome, especially for those of us that have faith. And if we are afraid to share those vulnerable moments and be transparent, how do people really know that the grace of God is real? I mean, when I tell my story, they go, man, that grace is real for that guy. I mean, that guy's got to truly understand that. But how do people really know that if the person they're following or listening to never shares anything except how great things are?
Yeah.
We all know these people have issues at home in their marriages and
Right.
with their kids and financial problems, but they don't share those things from the pulpit. And
Yeah.
and so how do people really know that grace is real?
And
that's one of the
some
ways.
people aren't called. I mean, I know
I know.
somebody who went through the similar situation that we did, and they're like, I actually don't think that we'll ever share it, but then this person just used it as a testimony for somebody else in her life. And I was really, it's a timing thing. Not everybody's going to have a podcast or get up on a huge stage and say what's happened.
Exactly.
But it is, and that's okay. I think that's so,
right.
but for people who are willing to do it, on behalf of everybody who's been through TL Ford, thank you, because you have an enormous platform, and your mansion in heaven is going to be pretty large. So just mention our name.
Right.
To the big guy up there.
Yeah.
When you get your reward, let him know that we know you. We're like
Well, I
Santa.
appreciate it. And
Elf, I know him.
Yeah, I heard you say that one time.
You
That was
know,
funny.
we know him.
If you get there before
There's a couple
us.
people
You're
who
a
are like,
couple years older
man,
than
you're
us.
like heroes of faith in the Bible. So
Yeah.
here, but okay, here's what I'm thinking. Let's do
Okay.
like quick fire.
Okay.
Let's have fun with this.
Okay.
I think this is gonna be cool.
Can I say one more thing about that just real
Go
quick?
for it.
And then y'all can cut
Yep.
it, whatever
Go for
you
it.
want. Yeah, Brittany, my hope is that we are forever eternal mates with our soulmate, which is for me, Sandra,
Yep.
and which is for you, is Caleb.
Yeah.
Okay? And if that's true, then we'll be living in even a bigger mansion because of her. But if it's not true, if you look at mine, next door will be a way bigger one. And that's where she'll be living. Okay?
Next
Because
door.
okay.
She'll let you
Because
come over.
know, if she never gives permission for me to help that first couple,
Totally.
if
yeah.
she never says okay to that, none of that happens. And then the next one, and the next one, and then one day, what would happen if we went public, honey? What about all the people we could help?
Yeah.
And she instantly said, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so that just,
That's awesome.
So I get a lot of credit, but as you know,
Yeah.
she's the one that deserves it.
That's a good
on
point.
That subject for sure.
Yeah. And honestly, so when we were going through our situation, that's how Kathy Canfield was for me as well. So both women, Sandra's spiritual mom, I feel like to me, and Kathy Canfield before she passed away from breast cancer, I'm calling saying like, man, we're really in a bad spot. I think Caleb and I are not going to make it. I'm pretty sure we're going to divorce. And she's like, why? And we almost called the book The Faithful Fight, because it was fighting for our marriage. He was fighting for his life.
Yes, he was.
Fighting for our family, and everybody that we've talked to who's gone through something like that would, I think, agree. And even to the point where, like, when you think that you're going to give up, it's like, have you done everything though that you can to fight? Like you want to walk away. If you're going to walk away knowing I did everything possible. And I wouldn't have been able to put up, that fight had it not been for Sandra and the decision. That's why I thanked her that day at the precinct when we did the book.
That touched her that night. How many
Was
people
to thank
came
her
down
for
and got
stepping
on
up.
one knee and thanked her? I mean, I was sitting there just crying like a baby.
Yes, TL, so short for transformational leadership. You talk about your testimony. I think that really opens the door for people to relate to you and to, you also do, the change game. I'm going to argue that one all day long that we don't need to do that in TL, but I know you disagree with me.
But
That's
it's so
okay.
fun.
But no, it's not. People, look at him. He's dying to say something. Anyway, walk us through. Okay, why do you do the change game?
Okay, so we didn't.
Let's debate.
We didn't used to start with that. Okay,
Oh,
if you remember,
let's
we
go
used a
back
name
to the
game
old
and a ball
days.
game. Okay, and
Can
we
I get black
restricted the
coffee, too?
classes to
Sorry.
25 people.
Yep.
But
That's
as
my
the
first
classes
class.
grew,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we got 100 or 200 or 1,200, you can't throw a tennis ball around the room.
Right.
Okay, and so we had to come up with something else, and so that's why we came up with the change game. The key is we know that for 95% of the people, 98%, the change game before it's over is a lot of fun. We also know that it raises the stress, but we also know that it puts everybody on an equal playing field. Okay, and so the reason I stuck with it is because we tested it at first, and we took feedback on it, was because I was actually doing a training in Portland, and I was doing the download on the change game, and I was still using a flip chart back then to talk about the 9 dynamics. And when I did that, people came up at the first break, and way back then we actually even charged more than we do now for citywide kind of stuff. At the first break, came up and said, every penny I paid, it was worth it for that
Oh,
first 2
come on,
hours.
Ford, for the change game.
Well, the change game and the download
Dynamics of
that comes
change.
from the down,
Yeah.
but you can't do that download without the change game.
Yeah.
You can't do
All right.
the dynamics, the strategies, and the tools on
So what
how
is
to
the change
overcome
game?
those dynamics.
What is it?
Well, it's where we get people to take a good look at each other, and then they go back to back, and they physically change 5 things about themselves, and they turn back around and try to figure out what it is that they changed, and then we make them do it again and then again.
I'm sweating,
and
sitting
people
here
are
thinking
sweating
about doing it.
bullets and thinking I'm running out of stuff to change, and then we say change 10 more things, and then the whole room just shuts down. I mean, completely comes to a screeching halt. But then when we get, as we're going through the dynamics, one of them is that I believe outside the box thinking doesn't work. Okay, and we teach a whole different way of thinking than that, and part of that's being creative, and then we teach them, look around the room, how long we could have played that game if you were being creative. Mm-hmm. You could have swapped glasses, coats, you could pick up a piece of paper and rip 5 pieces and put it in your
Yeah.
hand. So it's the dynamics that we want to teach, that we use that game, that most people experience all 9 dynamics during that game.
Oh, yeah. We're all up in the feels for
Yeah,
that game.
Right. And so if you experience them, now that you understand the tools and the strategy to overcome them, it makes sense. But that's why we do it.
So you talked about inside the box, outside the box. But go ahead, explain what bubble jumping is.
Okay, well, this is probably one of the hardest concepts to grasp at first
Okay.
of everything we teach. But I believe that the reason that a lot of people stay dealing with in their muck, if you will, what I call the river of complication, is that we've been trained this way of thinking to think outside the box. And so if you can imagine me standing in a box and I go to something that I'm going to change, I want to lose weight, or I want to improve my marriage, or
Yeah.
improve as a parent, and I get some new tools to go do that.
Yep.
And then I get outside the box.
Thank you. Yep.
So I go out with this new way of thinking.
Yep.
And then invariably, it gets uncomfortable. And when it gets uncomfortable, people crawl back in that box. They don't keep going. And so I teach people that you have to change your thinking before you leave the box. You can't wait till after. And so I teach them, so right now, write this down. And this is early in the 3 days or early in the consulting.
Right.
Write this down. You ready? It's going to get uncomfortable. And when it does, I won't crawl back in. And if you can make that decision before we start, now when you get out and it's uncomfortable, your brain has already said, I know it's going to get uncomfortable.
That's so
and I'm
good.
not going to go back to the old thing. And if you keep going down this trail, you'll get to a place where I call beyond the box. And how do you know you're beyond the box thinking? It's just as uncomfortable to crawl back as it is to keep going forward.
Ooh.
You already know what's back there.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is with beyond the box, you can still see the box. it's still in your peripheral view. But if you stay beyond it long enough, you'll turn your back on the old one. And we call that bubble jumping, which is a paradigm shift. And so what happens in the bubble jumping concept is that a bubble's formed when the pressure on the outside and the inside are equal. Well, we know every bubble's eventually going to burst. And in my case, burp, but it's eventually going to burst. Okay, as we get older, that bubble burps more than it bursts. But anyway, and during the wobble, okay, during that wobbling of when it's about to burst, it's very uncomfortable. I call it, in the stained glass, I call it a holy tension. But in this way of thinking, what I've found in the last 25 years when I've applied this, that every time that bubble bursts, there's always more for us in the next bubble because that old bubble's not even available to go back to. So you can't go back to the box. It's not even, but to get your brain to always be thinking, expect the unexpected. I mean, look how successful you were compared to other restaurants during COVID.
Right.
It's because you didn't crawl back in. You kept thinking, you kept bubble jumping. What are new innovative ways? What can we do to set us apart? And now look what's happened. You're doing a lot of those things still that you were almost forced to do during COVID. But that's bubble jumping. You're looking at being so different in the way you think. And we'll just talk about for you in your industry or in your book where you're being vulnerable. It's so different that it's just not the same way other people think.
Yes, and counsel me on this because I've recently come to terms that I think I bubble jump all day long, every day, and that can sometimes be a problem. Yes, it prepared me for COVID. I did a contingency plan 3 weeks before COVID even was a thing. I remember I was sitting with John and Tina Husted in Columbus. We were having dinner, actually. He's a foster kid, and we were meeting with him in Columbus. And he was like, I think we're going to cancel the Arnold. Like, that seems like a big deal. But this was like way before it was what it was. And on the way home, I had Amazon. We pulled in, and there were 20 stacks of toilet paper towel. We were prepared. And then I went to the business and said, we called an executive meeting and said, halt every expense right now, every check. Like we had a $300,000 branding consultant coming in to rebrand everything, and I called and I said, I've got a bad feeling I need to just wait on this. That's $300,000 for that, and it didn't go out. And they had grace, and then I started calling our vendors. But my point is, I think for me, I was going to call you about this anyway. So here we are. It's called hypervigilant.
Yeah.
So every day there's something. Yes, it is a superpower where I'm thinking I'm peeking around every corner, or I'm prepared for the worst. It's not anxiety. It's not. It's just like I'm almost numb. Like I said, my house flooded yesterday, and I just looked at it. I was like, yep, I'm not today. Can't deal with it. But when you are constantly, when you've had that much trauma happen, the book, my childhood, business, now I'm looking at worst case scenarios for if there's what's happening with supply and screwworm and alpha-gal and all the things. I'm constantly thinking that way. An Enneagram would say that's a 6, right? So you're just doomsday kind of worst case scenario. I'm like, I think I got some of that 6 in me. And my spiritual coach, Genevieve, is saying, you might want to look into something called hypervigilance. I'm like, that's not me, because I'm not reacting. I took it as like overreacting to situations, and it was more, no, I'm just always prepared for the worst. Mm-hmm. So bubble jumping can be a gift. And I think sometimes, though, for me, people will feel like they're chasing their tails because I'm always on to the next thing. And so counsel me on how you would reel that in, or should I?
No. There's two things, and again, you know how much I love the Enneagram. My struggle with it is they focus so much on the negative part of those numbers, and I focus on the positive
some
part.
Would. Some Enneagram coaches do.
Some. I'm not talking about yours.
Yeah.
You got a great one.
Yeah,
you know I
sure.
love her. But some of them focus so much on the negative, they don't show them how to transition that and make it a positive.
Yeah.
So hypervigilance is a good thing. Can you make it a positive? You have something else going on, Brittany, that's not just that. Okay, and there's, we teach these 9 continuums that can cause conflict, and one of them is called a pioneer, planner, and promiser. Okay, the best CEOs can do all 3, but a pioneer is always looking at the next thing. Okay, and the planner is the one going, oh great, I've got to put a plan together to go get that old thing that Ford and Britney just talked about.
Yeah.
And we were only pioneering. We were not making a plan. We were just saying, what if?
Yeah.
But that can drive a planner crazy.
Yeah.
Well, then the promisers are the ones who have to deliver on that plan for the vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we that have this bubble jumping gift,
Yeah.
we have to be careful
Yep.
that when we're pioneering,
Mm-hmm.
that we make it clear we are not making a decision today. I'm thinking out loud.
I'm forever the student.
Yeah. Well, aren't we all? I mean, when we stop learning, we stop leading. Okay.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And the greatest the greatest leaders are also the greatest followers. You know, if you've always got to be in charge,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, because people that are good at being in charge, let me put it this way. I had this conversation with a man who called me yesterday stressed over something. And I said, look, here's the issue, and if you can get this, you'll get it, is that you're almost always your greatest asset used in the wrong way is your greatest liability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way with Enneagram. Those liabilities that come with those numbers, when you don't have those become your greatest asset.
Yeah. Yep.
And so when we're talking through this, you know, if we're always learning, right, if all of us as leaders, if we're always following and learning while we're leading, guess how much better we get to be as leaders? All of us.
Right.
Because we're learning from other people who know stuff that we didn't know.
And I think for us at Ruby's, you know, this is why we're heavily invested in transformational leadership, in with Denny, the Enneagram. Now we've got Horst Schulze from the Ritz-Carlton. The purpose of that, going back to who we are and why we do this, is because we genuinely care about people.
I never really just stopped to sit down and think about how much of an investment that is
Oh, it's seven
and
figures.
how much they've spent just on their employees. And do they really know the gift they have been given just to go through, even if it's just going through Transformational Leadership TL for free on your own and using it just as a self-help book.
Yeah, knowing they might not always work for us.
And
like,
they
it's
might
okay.
not.
This is going to be really good for you.
Right.
This is a gift to you. You know,
It's such a gift. I mean, just on self-identity
And I
stuff.
think they do realize
and
it. Once it's over,
processing
they're
stuff
like, "Oh,
and
thank you,
emotional
Jesus.
stuff
Thanks
and
for
issues
this."
that you have for yourself. Anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, it's
Nice.
a great gift that you guys offer for them. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm not just saying it. It's a really big deal. It's really cool for them. I hope they're taking advantage of it. I know it helped me with my life, and you've helped so much, and you've helped so much. And it's just really cool. And because we all know, and I'll let you take it from here, because we all know it's like this. They're not doing it to self-help themselves with the business. Yes, that's a great byproduct, right? But one of the biggest things, that the reason it does make businesses functional and profitable is because it actually transforms people, helps them get out of their stuff from the inside out. And, you know, as I say, happy wife, happy life, like healthy worker, efficient worker, productive worker. So
Yep.
Yeah, you know, Caleb, we talk about the 9 common constraints that we find in organizations, and you know, we identify an organization as any time 2 or more people are in relationship, and then we talk about influence, you know, up, across, down, and influence with ourselves. But in those 9 constraints, number 9 is once you get a lot of these other cultural 8 issues resolved, transactional and relational, both operational, leadership made operational. How do you sustain that?
Right.
How do you continue it? And your wife over here, Brittany, she doesn't like public affirmation, so I'll say it to you first, okay? She nails that. You know, she doesn't stop. When things get a little bit tight, you know, and they all get tight sometimes, you know, cash flow can get tight. She doesn't stop. She knows the value. It reminds me of the CFO who went to the CEO one time and said, well, what are you going to do if we spend all this money training these people and they leave? And the CEO says, well, what are we going to do if we don't spend it and they stay? Okay? And so, but Brittany has nailed that. I mean, she's like, she knows the importance of continuing that. And while I know, Brittany, that you do it for the people, I know that about you. You know, I describe you all over the world as brilliant with a big heart. You know that. I've had you with me at the MBA program at Texas A&M as a guest to show people what a transformational leader actually looks like, how they sound. And so you continue that continuous improvement. You know, we talked a little while ago about the bubble jump and the pioneer. Mm-hmm. We just have to be careful that we're not continually improving so much when those dynamics, people can only handle so much change at one time, that we aren't giving them too much. But you are brilliant, and what Caleb just said is you are relentless on the continual training and improvement by bringing other people in. What I was going to say is I know you do it for their personal growth. But I think you would also say to CEOs, if that's why you do it, the outcome will be you'll be more profitable.
Well, I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
It's the byproduct, but
Yeah.
the intention wasn't to let's make Ruby's the most profitable restaurant.
That was not the vision.
Oh, at all. But it happened.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
again, I look like a genius, although all I did was bring Ford Taylor in and shifted the culture in
Somebody's
a
got to pull it off. I wasn't here pulling it off. That was you.
well, it's a family. So having
Sure.
Jeff Ruby on board was
And
key.
Dylan and Brandon
That was a
and Jeff.
process.
Yeah. You know how much I love bringing my friends here from all over the world?
They're pretty
I mean, I
excited.
just love bringing them here.
Well, you walk in and you're like superstar walking in.
No, but my point is I love bringing them here.
Because they love you.
No, because they get to see what
Yeah.
it looks like. They get to see the waiters, the hostess, that love their jobs, that support each other. Where somebody will bring desserts over because they're not busy right now, and somebody else is covered up, and I can just point out things. I say, look right here. They're not even working in the same section. Watch this.
Yeah.
And they can see it, and the way that they're treated as a guest. But I love it. Not only do you have the best food in the world that I found, you just have that experience, and you've just set the stage for that. So I love bringing here as a customer, so they can experience what the Jeff Ruby whole experience is.
Awesome. All right. We're, again, going back. Okay. Talk about eliminating gossip. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, one of the hardest things to do in an organization is to eliminate gossip. As you know, one of my quotes is, I believe that if we could learn not to take offense and eliminate gossip, we could shift any culture in about 48 hours.
Yep.
I also have a quote that says, I believe gossip may be the largest undiagnosed addiction in the world today.
Say that again.
I believe that gossip may be the largest undiagnosed addiction in the world today. I actually read some research, what is today, Tuesday, last week, that actually says that the brain is hardwired for gossip.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think it was Harvard, I can't remember. But my point is, so that means you have to unhardwire it, which you can do, change the way you think about it. But I also believe that when we learn to walk out conflict in the right way, that you can start eliminating gossip. When people see the research on how many hours a year that the average employee in America gossips, and you double that because they have to have at least one person, and if they're doing it to 4 people, it's times 4, there are tens of billions of dollars of productivity lost just in the time that's gossiping. And so the definition we use is when you're saying something negative about someone to someone else who's not part of the problem or part of the solution. But if we can, the way we fix that, as you know, is we teach people how to go to the person they got an issue with. And we can talk about what to do that you should go, but most people don't talk about how to go. But
Right.
when you go to a person with humility, I may be wrong, this may be me, it may not be you, and pre-forgiveness, I'm here because I want our relationship good. And love, I care more about you than I care about how you feel about me. I mean, what if I'm right and what you're doing is destroying your marriage? What if it's destroying your ability to get a promotion or a raise? What if you're about to lose your job because nobody loved you enough to bring this up?
Instead of going to the neighbor saying, hey, do you think that this is going on? Or, yeah.
You ready? And then the fourth one is 100% of the truth and the facts, because
Yeah.
sometimes those aren't the same, and I won't get into that right now. But when you learn how to go to that person directly instead of going and talking about them, because you know what I believe? I believe great people talk about vision, ideas, and solutions. Average people talk about things, and I get real average during college football season, okay? But I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with
Right.
average, okay? But, small people talk about other people.
Yeah.
Smaller people let them, smaller people join them, and even minuscule, smaller people, they spread it around. And if you can stop that in an organization, productivity goes up just because of the hours you saved. But the big key is trust goes up. Let me ask both of y'all a question. Do you think anybody in the world could say something negative about you to me and get away with it?
No. They'd come within 48 hours
48
and tell
hours.
us directly.
They got to come tell you. Because you've experienced that with me. Because if you said something to me, I would tell you, you got 48 hours to go talk to them. Well, if I'm going to do that to you, guess what? I'm always going to do it for you. But that's how you shut it down. And if anybody's done a good job of diminishing, especially in the industry you're in, of slowing it down, it's been you and Jeff Ruby's. Because y'all really, because when we first started, it was like,
Oh yeah, it was
It's
crazy.
just wildfire all the time.
And what's so hard though is, so gossip is speaking negative about anyone to someone who's not part of the problem or the solution. And where I personally have always catch myself is, and I think we talked about this, well, what if this person's part of the solution? They're probably not part of the solution 9 times out of 10. It's like the only person that I should be talking to about this situation is Caleb. Otherwise, I just need to go directly to the person.
Right. Well, again, or I've told you before, you can call me because I'm always going to be part of the solution. But you don't have to tell me who it is.
Right.
Exactly.
You can give me the scenario.
Yes.
And I can give you counsel on how to deal with that scenario. And so you didn't gossip about the person, you just gave the scenario. So there is a way
Yes.
that if you need somebody else's counsel who might have dealt with that scenario before, that you can do it without bringing up a person. And that's what people forget.
All right,
you know?
I'm going
Yeah.
to quiz you real quick, Bible guy. What's the Bible say about gossip?
What to say about gossip?
Yeah.
You better ask for it.
You will
time
be
out and look
judged
up
for
the-
everything negative that you say about somebody else on Judgment Day, right?
Well, sure,
Isn't
yeah.
that scripture?
No, it's very clear.
Yeah.
It
If you
is.
slander, here's the fun part for me in the Old Testament. It talks about how to transform cities, and y'all know I'm very involved in that with different cities. And it actually says, you ready? Feed the hungry, house the homeless, take care of the orphans and the widows, the returning citizens, the prisoners, take care of the foreigners in your land. And it says stop gossiping. Isn't it interesting that that's on the list with all those other
Wow.
things? It's
Yeah, I
the
don't
only
remember that
one.
one.
It's almost like it's an outlier, but it's like, wow, it's amazing that made that list.
That is amazing.
But it talks about that you will have to take account for everything.
Every word.
To
Every
your
word, of
maker
course.
for every word that you've ever. Caden just came to us. He's like, does that mean like everything? I'm like, everything, buddy. He still loves you. But at least you're only 20, learning this and not 40, because that would be all right, Brittany, let's get the paper out. Here's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
But-
Well, gossip for us has been maybe the most. I said if we only went over 2 or 3 tools today in the
Yeah.
podcast, that would be one of the top
Huge.
3 for us because we use it all the time. Because just like you said, it's so prevalent. It's like everywhere with our kids and our families.
The kids are
and
so
work.
good with this. They know it so well because of Papa
Right.
Ford. It's awesome.
Oh, it's great. And it's so
Yeah.
applicable. We use this probably more than any other tool, this and the discipline model.
Yep.
But with gossip, it's just funny because it's like a lot of people that we talk to, or I've taught this probably to more people than any other tool just because they'll start. And I'm like, listen, man, I got to stop you. Here's why. I know you don't necessarily follow this definition, but here's how I do it. So unless you want me to
It
go,
drives me crazy because I like to
find this
get in a
person.
little bit of like, hey, he's like, Brittany, stop. I'm like, gosh, you're right.
I have an idea.
True.
How about we give a freebie to your listeners?
All right, freebie,
Okay.
giveaway.
All right. So if they will text the word social covenant
Okay.
to 53123. So 53123.
Okay.
Social covenant. We got it spelled like 15 different ways, so they can't mess it up. Okay.
We can put it on the
get
screen,
an
too.
automatic response just asking for their name. We're not looking for information, and they can get a 51-minute training on this.
Oh, wow. That's
And
awesome.
it will come to their phone every day automatically. It's a brand new technology. We have TL and all this too now.
That's
But they
great.
can get it, and they can watch it all. But wherever they stop, the next day, they'll get the next one. But it's 51 minutes, and it does talk about the social covenant, gossip.
Yep.
I think the V-Steel model's in there to kind of connect a lot of it.
Yeah.
But it's a freebie if they want to go deeper in how to resolve
Love that.
conflict.
Thank you for giving it to her.
That's a good one.
That's huge. Take
Yeah.
him up on it.
yes.
All right, social covenant. What's a social covenant?
Well, the social covenant is an agreement on how we're going to treat one another. And once we agree on how we're going to treat one another, we have an agreement of how will we deal with that if one of us breaks that agreement. And when we ask people to come up with the words how we're going to treat one another,
Yeah.
it's always we're going to be affirming and loving and kind, and we're going to encourage one another. We're going to be vulnerable and transparent. These are the words that come out all over the world. You don't ever hear words like, we're going to gossip about one another, we're going to reject, we're not going to listen, we're going to
Right.
be bad listeners.
Right.
That's never in there, and that's globally. And then we ask the question, all right, now if we can agree on this, how will we deal with it? And then what we teach is that you go one-on-one. And this is where the gossip teaching comes in. Don't go tell somebody else, go to that person. If that doesn't work, bring another person or two with you. And the reason we say a person or two, let's just say Caleb and I had a conflict, and we could agree at you. We don't need 2 people. We can bring one. But bring a person or two with us to try to have that meeting again and see if we can solve it. Now, a side note: don't bring somebody who knows about it because you've already gossiped. Bring somebody.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You've already gossiped. If you bring somebody that's on your side.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, you bring them to a group of decision makers, and then we would both present our case to the decision makers, and we would say whatever they say, we're going to live with. And then we tell people that if that group says, Ford, you're wrong, you got two choices. You can apologize and change your behavior or leave the group. If they say to Caleb, we don't think Ford was wrong this time, we think this is your lens, then he's got two choices. Apologize, change his behavior, and leave the group. The fun part about this, in all these dozens of years of using this, I've only seen it get to a third meeting 5 times in all these years.
Wow.
Okay? And 3 of those times, the accuser wouldn't show up.
Really?
Did not show up. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Okay? A 4th one, the accused wouldn't show up. And the 5th time, everybody, this was a citywide thing, all of them showed up. Reconciliation took place. I don't believe that most conflict is very seldom all one person's fault. Very unusual. It's usually both. There's some kind of communication. Something happens that causes the conflict. But we're told globally that social covenant is definitely in the top 3 tools of everything we teach.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Some people say it's number 1, but
I would
it's
think
always
it's
in the
gotta
top
be.
3.
So we have one for the family.
Yeah.
For us, we
Yes.
just copy and pasted yours. We plagiarized yours. I think we added in
A couple
1 or
things.
2 words.
But the social
We added in that we will not text anything serious.
I remember that when y'all added that.
Yeah, and so
remember that.
the kids know, and you're not going to text and I'm sorry. You're going to get with the person
At minimum,
face
pick
to
up the
face.
phone, right?
Right.
At minimum.
At minimum,
If you're out of
but
town or whatever. But yeah.
How important do you think? I mean, obviously we know it's important for business. How important do you think it is for a family to have a social covenant?
You know Jamie in Nashville. We're all friends. And I was talking to him last month, and we were talking about all those years ago that he moved to Nashville. And I'm sharing this because if you know his kids today, that will answer your question.
Yeah,
and,
they're great
and your
kids.
kids, when they're adults, you'll know the answer to the question that you just asked. But I'll never forget going into their home in Nashville and having dinner. And those 5 and 7-year-old affirming their parents in the Waddle model before the parents affirmed them, asking them about their day. And I'll never forget Jamie pointing at the wall in their dining room. And that's where the social
Oh, it's
covenant.
printed. We need to do that.
It was
That's a
printed.
good idea.
You ready?
Jamie, show off.
Hanging, look here, in the dining room.
Wow.
You ready? And I got
Huge.
up and read it. And it was like the brother had agreed that he would not kick his sister, and the sister had agreed she would not pinch her brother. I mean, it was age appropriate.
So good.
And all the other stuff was there, but it was very age appropriate, just like yours was. We're not going to text serious stuff among the family because there's so much miscommunication. When we see these kids later, we have people that brought their 12-year-old and 13-year-old sons to our training out in Portland, Oregon years ago. And we did a number of trainings out there, and they brought them 2 or 3 times and then bring them back, years later. And these young men walk up and shake your hand and say, thanks to this training, I was valedictorian of my high school. I was an outstanding student at university. And to hear these kids talk about how their parents ingrained these things into their minds, their brains, so they could be so set apart.
Yep.
But anyway, that's the best way I could answer it, is talk to some of the grown adult children that we now know of our friends who have grown adult children and look at the difference.
We are redoing our VP MOSA as a family the end of July on our family vacation. We have all of them in one place. We're going to Rosemary Beach, and
Awesome.
Kids know we gave them a little bit of reading material, so you've got a little bit of homework.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But Caleb's going to walk us through doing. So, do you want to talk about VPM, or do you have anything else to say on that?
No, I mean, yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm going to try to find time to go through the Transform Lead videos before then, if we can, with the kids this summer.
Get on the Jeff Ruby LMS. They're all over.
Yeah, I've been watching that. I was just thinking that
We should log in. Actually, let's just use the LMS
we
while we're
can.
down there. Make life real easy.
I'm ready for him to pull out the
I know
the special
you're
manual.
referencing everything and pull out your do the Papa Ford thing.
While,
All right, tell me which one you want to go to next.
Waddle, waddle.
I'll pull it out.
yeah, I do. No, Social
VP
Covenant's so
MOSA.
amazing.
VP MOSA.
Yeah, VP MOSA. Social Covenant. I mean, even if you just had Social Covenant,
VP MOSA.
the gossip training, and the discipline model,
Yeah.
with a VP MOSA, I'm like, man,
That's it.
everything in there is,
Main.
is game changer. But for us, it's like, at least it gives you direction for life. The only other thing I wanted to say is, like, for these things, you know, kind of a macro view on something, what Ford's done. Okay, for the listeners out there, for people that are watching this, listeners, the viewers, everybody, there's a gift that Ford has where he took really practical, like super essential, critical information that we have to know to be able to live our best lives on this earth in the 50 to 100 years we got. Okay, and a lot of people look at the Bible like it's Braille. They look at it like it's a foreign language. They're like, I don't understand what any of this is talking about. And there's multiple different versions now, which is great because people kind of pick one that speaks their version of English, at least, right? That makes sense to them. But a lot of people, you know, especially early new Christians that don't know this stuff, and even if they do, you know, there's a lot of people that just feel like it's foreign and they can't apply it to their, you know, regular lives. Like, what do I do with this information? And just try not to sin, and maybe I'll get to heaven. Great. Okay, that's it. There's so much more in there. And for whatever reason, like that, I haven't seen a lot of people do a great job of taking that and kind of distilling it down and breaking it up into tools that are practical for everyday living. Because one thing I think that a lot of people, at least growing up in church in the South, like Ford and I did, it's like it's just about, you know, heaven and hell and don't sin and here's the things to do and not to do and be a good man and be a good husband and be a good wife and be a good daughter or whatever, all the things. And that's about it. And so Ford's taking all of this really practical information that's like, how do you build a business with God? It's like, is that even a thing?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's actually everything for life and godliness is in there.
Mentorship you need.
It's in there. And so for people listening, it's like, I'm sure transformational leadership is not the only resource out there for this. There's probably other good ones. But for us, this is one. And it does work, and it is amazing.
It's a Cliff Notes version.
Yeah,
How to.
if you've never experienced anything like this, if you pick it up and find a way to get your hands on it or your eyes on it and take yourself, your business, or your family through it, it will radically change your life. If you've never had anyone else distill down the Bible into practical ways to really manage and make it where you're not just surviving, where you actually want to thrive. Like I've told people, I'm like, how do we market? When I first met Ford, I want to say one more thing, and we can move on to the next tool, the VP MOSA, but I was like, what is the most radical thing I could say to market, to be honest and not clickbait, but about transformational leadership because of how much Ford helped us with our lives and our relationship and the stuff I was dealing with mentally and emotionally and marriage problems and all the things. It's like, if you actually do everything that it asks you to do and do every part of the training, including the missing link part, if you do everything in there and you try and you don't give up, then you can actually make this claim as it'd be impossible to get divorced if the husband and the wife both did it and both applied everything, right? And both did the journey, the hard stuff, and got personal transformation. If both parties do it and they both commit, it's impossible to get divorced. That's true. Now, we've helped a lot of people with a lot of your stuff in the past.
That don't want to do it.
And it's like most of the time, one of the parties is trying really hard, and they're awesome people, but like somebody's just like, man, I just can't. I'm like, man, I understand. There's no judgment for those people. Yeah. We love those people. Yep. But it's like usually it's like one is a little more committed or a lot more committed than the other. Yeah. But if both can do it, never give up, that's the key part, is never giving up. It gets hard. Yeah. It gets hard in there, as we know.
Faithful fight.
So anyway, that was my recommendation for people jumping in on this thing. And so, but the VP MOSA, remind me again, is and I know people will go through this at their turn, but on the vision, purpose, mission, is that supposed to be on the front end or the back end of when people are going into this kind of organizing their lives and applying all these tools? Okay.
So when we go through the training, we make it on the back end.
Right.
We recommend people do
on the action plan.
Yeah, but on the action, but in the model.
Okay.
The thing she wanted me to hold up. Okay. I think that's page 63 or 4. I can't remember. I can't read it. That's why I wear my glasses. Hang on a second.
Okay.
I know, Brittany, when I was younger, I had these memorized, but 59. Okay. So that's how late in the training that we teach the
VP
MOSA.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, when we give the action plan, you know, we say going out of here, if you'll do these 6 things first, it'll change your life forever.
Right.
Okay. And the VP MOSA and the social covenant are 2 of them.
Right.
And so we say do those on the front end of implementation.
Got it.
Okay.
But if you don't do some of the things on the front end of the training to work on yourself first, it's hard to do a family VP MOSA or a marriage VP MOSA.
That makes sense, yeah.
Because you don't start with the right posture.
Right.
Well, explain what the VP MOSA is.
Okay. So that acronym stands for Vision, Purpose, Mission, Objectives, Strategies, and Action Plans. Okay? But we start with the tombstone. Okay. And with individuals, we say, turn the clock forward every how many years and imagine yourself standing at your own tombstone. What would you want it to say? Not what would it say today, what would you want it to say? And we say, write that first. Then we say, write your own eulogy, epitaph, obituary. What would you want your children to say about you, your spouse, your employees, your coworkers, your neighbors, the people you go to church with, for a company, your vendors, your bankers? I mean, what would you want all of them to say about you if they were going to speak at your funeral? And then we say, once you have that, now come up with 5 to 10 values that if you live those out every day from that day forward, forget looking back, from that day forward, if you live these out, is that what people would say? And we say, take some time and do those 3 steps first. Once those 3 are done, come back and answer these 3 questions. If I did it, what is it? In other words, that's the vision statement. I'm at the end, and this is what I accomplished. And write a personal vision statement. The second one is what I call the why. What purpose? What's the purpose of me doing that? Why am I here? Why do I exist? And then the mission is the question we ask is what sets us apart? What are we willing to do? What am I willing to do as an individual that other people may not be willing to do to accomplish that vision? Most people use a V, a P, a PM, or a VM. Very few answer all 3 questions. But we believe that third question is the most important. What are you willing to do that others aren't willing to do to accomplish what you said you were going to accomplish? And again, don't get bought up in semantics. Don't get caught up in that, because what you call each one really doesn't matter. I would answer all 3 questions though. And once you have that done, now you've got your tombstone, your eulogy, your values, you've got your VPM. Now come back and write some clear goals. We use the word objectives on purpose, strategies and action steps. That if you did those over the next 12 to 18 months, it would accelerate you to your vision, which would accelerate you to your tombstone. Kidding about that part. But that it would accelerate you towards that vision. And those are clear objectives. There are strategies. If one strategy doesn't work, maybe this one will work. But the action steps have dates, actual actions. I'm going to do these by this date. And we've seen so many lives, families, marriages. In a company, we just start with not a tombstone, but a plaque on the wall. Or would you, 50 years from now, if people came in and they were talking about Britney's management team today, what would you want to say? What would you want your vendors, your bankers, your employees? So you do the same thing. What values? And y'all have 5 outstanding values, and people, you're on them, and people are bought into it. You have a clear VPM, and you're always improving it, which is, once you accomplish it, you're going, okay, we've done that. We got there before I died, so let's do it. And then, but individually, we recommend taking those objectives and breaking it into 4 parts: family, work life, health, and we say break health, and on this show, 4 parts: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Right.
And the 4th one is community. Where do you give yourself away? And we ask people to quit using the word, do a bubble jump, quit using the word work-life balance, and reframe your thinking to life-work balance. Because work is a part of life, life is not a part of work. And when all 4 of those quadrants are in balance, it doesn't mean equal, but when they're in balance, it's a place of peace that most people never find, because those are so far out of balance.
Just say them again?
Family,
Family.
work-related, income, whatever you want to call it, job, health, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and community, where you give yourself, your time, your money. The best example I use is, when I went through the season of not traveling after I confessed what I'd done, I wanted to finish strong at home with the girls. And as you know, I coached them in just about every sport you could coach. But if you can think of that quadrant, so family, I have objectives around being sure that my girls were the goal that we set for them, which we wanted them to be productive citizens in society, that were self-sustaining and didn't ever move back home because they had to. So that was part of our goal for them. Now, whether that meant they got out of college, high school, whatever that is, that's where we wanted to go. But in that family quadrant, one of the things I wrote down is I would never miss a significant event in my daughter's life. That was just one of the things that I wanted them to say about me. So here we are, and got those 4 quadrants. and I'm coaching their sports. At one point, I was coaching 5 basketball teams, for example, because 2 AAU teams and 3 elementary school teams, all right? And so that's community, right? I mean, that's where you're giving your time away. But guess what? I'm doing it with family. So now the family and the community quadrants are now connected. Well, what does Sandra do? She comes and makes all the meals for the volleyball team, sings the Star Spangled Banner before all the games. And so now our family is engaged in doing a lot of these things. Well, what about health? Well, one of the ways that my mental and emotional health keeps going is I'm teaching these 7 to 18-year-old kids transformational leadership. And so every time I'm teaching them, it's also making my mental health stronger, which is making my emotional health stronger. And what happens when they're out running suicides and stuff, out there running with them. So now all of a sudden you got 3 of those quadrants working together. So I'm not feeling like I'm leaving my family to go coach.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm having to give up 100% of my exercise to spend time. So we just tell people if you can get those 4
So
in
good.
balance, it's a game changer. And now when you do that with a marriage, you know the outcome of that already. You've seen that.
Let me see this thing. I said, when Ford becomes
secret manual.
When Ford becomes an angel one day, I'm going to have to fight Whitney.
Look at the back of that page, and you'll
For
get
this.
even a bigger kick out of it. That's the 4 quadrants with the magic marker.
I'm so jealous.
Sharpie in today's world.
I got a pretty good printer here at work. I remember one time I called you about this. I had somebody, yep, you're like, go to the next page.
Yep, the next page
Here's
is
what
significant.
happens. So let's just say I had a situation. We had a situation where this played out. Walk me through what happened. And then I'm like, yeah, you're not going to believe though. And now they're like blaming me and gaslighting me. And you're like, all right, so explain that. This is the gas tank model.
Okay. Well,
By the way, I'm not perfect, but it's been nice
none of us are.
to, when you think you might be getting gaslit, to have somebody from the outside show you this. But then also to be able to empathize with what they're going through, because people
Both,
are
yeah.
not typically vindictive, sadistic people. It means their gas tank is that empty.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity we have in leadership,
Yeah.
is to get outside ourselves, outside of our heads. And I will always remember this. I'll tell this story one day, hopefully, when, like I said, when you're an angel, this is one of the stories about Ford, is to be able to look at this and say, Brittany, here's exactly what's happening. Now flip to the next page and now see by the way, this is going to happen next if you don't stop, if we don't fill this tank up. And you have to do that through the change and the transformation, all that. So anyway.
You have to play the change game.
Let's do
I'm
it.
kidding.
We're not doing change game. I'm going to come up. I'm
We're not
going to ask ChatGPT what he thinks about the change game. All right.
And so let's start with the premise that the gap between our real self and our ideal self. An ideal self is either who we put ourselves out to be or who we aspire to be. Okay? And the distance, that gap between those two, is 100% correlated to the amount of stress that we have in our lives. And so the bigger that gap,
Really?
the bigger the
Oh,
stress.
jeez. Okay, say it again. Sorry.
Okay. I'm just going
I
to
need
it's
to
good.
receive it one more time.
No, yeah, say it again.
you like for me to use the manual, so I'm going to read. You ready?
It's so good. Yes.
The distance between the real self and the ideal self is directly linked to the amount of stress a person feels. It's a direct correlation, okay? The more that we can be the same person in every part of our lives, the less stress we have. In other words, if we're not trying to be different at work than we are at home and different at church than we are in our neighborhood, that gap, the more we close it, the less stress we have. The bigger the gap, the more stress. I'm just going to use an example. If someone, for example, believes there's nothing wrong with looking at pornography, and they're looking at it, they're not stressed over it. If they think there's something wrong with it and they're looking at it, they got tremendous stress in their life. I'm just using it as an example that
Yeah,
some
fair.
people might be able to relate with.
Sure.
Okay? And so what happens is when that stress kicks in, our bodies are like a car. And when the car is full of gas and oil and air in the tires, everything's good. But what happens if the car runs out of gas? You pull over and you fill it up. What happens if it runs out of oil? It's done. I got that car too. Okay. I mean, that car's finished. The engine is shot. Well, if we can keep from running out of oil and catch ourselves when we're running out of gas or if the tires are getting deflated, we can stop that process. But the process looks like this. When we're healthy and full, at the top of our gas tank, if you will, something called dopamine, and that's the stuff that causes us to want to be in relationship with people. Well, if stress kicks in, dopamine can go either direction. It could get depleted and make you not want to be around people, or it could send you to the wrong person. Your dopamine gets energized. But it's out of whack. Stress is causing it. The other one that's the top of our gas tank is called serotonin. Serotonin is the stuff that causes us to rest well at night. We don't have anxiety during the day. We're not going like this and then, halfway through the day.
Right.
And so that. You're not waking up in the middle of the night like this. People say, God woke me up to pray. No, your serotonin was down. That was a shot of adrenaline, okay? But when serotonin and dopamine goes down, our adrenaline system kicks in, okay? And we can get a shot of it. And that's what gets us going through the day. If enough adrenaline stays in place long enough, we start having anxiety, and our brain starts playing tricks on us. If we stay in that place where that gas tank gets that low, so now we're out of gas, the tires are empty, but the next thing that happens is we can be depressed. Now we're out of oil, okay? And once we hit depression, something dies. Mm-hmm. It could be a divorce. It could be somebody sticking a gun in their mouth. It could be a long-term addiction to drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever, but something dies. Two best friends won't talk to each other anymore. Somebody quits their job and they get healing and go, why did I ever quit? That's the best job I ever had. But my point is something dies when that gas tank gets low. But the significant part, what you were talking about when you were telling me what was going on, I said, turn the page. Mm-hmm. I said, let me show you what's happening. So when somebody's gas tank is that low, mm-hmm. the first thing you'll see is that they will become controlling and manipulative. They will want to control the conversation. Let's say it's me and Caleb wants to help me. And he says, Ford, let's talk about the cup of coffee. Well, I'll have this unique ability to get him off the coffee and talk about the glass. Mm-hmm. He'll say red and I'll hear blue. And so when that starts happening, it's convoluted. That second one, that red-blue thing kicks in. So it's control manipulation is now combined with convoluted communication. And when those two start operating together, the next thing that happens is there's a third thing that steps in that says, I'm going to kill this relationship. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take it out of play. Mm-hmm. And it's because we aren't communicating well. Our gas tanks are empty. And that's when they'll start discrediting whoever sees the reality. So when you see a gaslighter, I'm just using your example, that gaslighter it's the one that's doing the gaslighting, will try to destroy your credibility. Yeah. Because that way, if it ever comes out, you ready? Whatever is causing stress in their life, you got it? So mm-hmm. whatever it is, whatever that gap is, mm-hmm. they now, if you're the one that sees it, they now have discredited you. Yeah. So people will believe them. Okay? Right. And then, of course, that fourth step is something actually dies. Yeah. That relationship is over, yeah. Death, physical death.
So recognizing when the gas tank is, I feel like I do that pretty well. Mm-hmm. Personally, there's some people who, I'll just clear the schedule. I'll cancel meetings. Sorry. Because the stress is sometimes so much, just typical business stuff, but it's still stress. And I know that I am walking collateral damage if I don't stop what I'm doing and fill the tank back up. But it took enough outbursts and probably destroyed too many relationships in my life until I realized, and thank God Caleb forgives me because it would mostly come out on him, or the kids, or at what point, how do you tell somebody who's listening how to identify when you're to that point? Okay. Bumper buddies?
Yeah, so I'm going to jump to bumper buddies and I'm going to come back to the tool that we teach to help. But bumper buddies are people that we walk with in life who love us enough to tell us if they see something we can't see in ourselves. In other words, they love us enough to tell us we got lettuce or pepper in our teeth. We can't see it. It's a blind spot. And we trust each other enough that we know that no matter what we share, our relationship will not end. It doesn't matter. In other words, I might be wrong, but I think I'm seeing something.
So you've already asked somebody to be a bumper buddy.
You've already asked. We're already in that relationship.
Okay.
You did this for me last year, Brittany.
Okay.
I was a mess. Mm-hmm. And come to find out, I was having a tough year that I had a bacteria in my brain. Mm-hmm. But everybody could tell I was off. Mm-hmm. But people just thought, well, Ford's really busy right now. I had 7 different things going on last year trying to get some stuff done by the end of the year. Yeah. And I didn't even realize what was happening. I mean, people were saying, "Are you okay? You know, you're not right." But no one came to me like you did and said, "Let me tell you exactly what I'm seeing." Okay, that is love. I mean, that is love and trust, and our relationship got stronger,
Yeah.
not weaker, because you love me enough. Because if I hadn't gone and got myself checked out, who knows? Because you know, a lot of doctors don't understand bacteria and fungus and mold in the brain. They just don't understand it. They do surgery and stuff.
Right.
You know, we have a technology that can deal with that. But yeah, that's what a bumper buddy does. They can see that your gas tank is empty
Yeah.
because you're not behaving normally, whatever that is.
Can
Okay?
a spouse be a bumper buddy?
What's that?
Do you recommend it a spouse or somebody else?
So the way I put it is that your number one bumper buddy at some point ought to be your spouse.
Okay.
Okay? I remember the first time I asked Sandra that, you know, I want us to be this with each other.
Yeah.
Years ago. And she said, I said, there's nothing about me that I want to hide from you. There's nothing about you I don't want to know. And her response back then was, I'm ready in every area except your lust issues. I would prefer that you keep talking about those with other men, because she wasn't ready yet. That was still clearly,
Yeah.
I'm saying this, to me that means the pain wasn't gone yet. Okay? Later she came back to me and said, okay, I'm ready now if you need to talk to me about those things. And so if you use your spouse, there may be some boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, it may be, you know, I don't want to be your bumper buddy about work. So
Yeah. Or
just don't-
stupid dreams or something. But go talk to somebody else.
But my point is, so if
Unless it's
you're-
a thing.
Yeah, so if you're going to have if it's going to
Yeah.
be your spouse, you may have a couple of, or 3 or 4 exceptions with that particular person
Mm-hmm.
until you're both ready. But ultimately, yeah, you want your spouse to have the ability at any time they want to tell you if you got a blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
And each other, because Caleb said earlier, if everybody walks all this out, guess what? Divorce just isn't an option, because you love each other enough to hold each other accountable. I hate that term, but to do it based on love and trust. Not accountability, but love and trust.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really idealistic place to be for a lot of people, at least even in our own lives. Like, we've done so much counseling and so many things have been mentored by you, and we love each other and we're committed. Like, we're in there forever till better or worse. There's a lot more better than worse, especially recently. And she's amazing. But part of me is like, you know, I feel like there's so many times that we've seen people we've tried to counsel and help with different things. It feels like, a lot of times it feels like when you're holding each other accountable, that you're like managing each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of Christians are like, well, you're not my Holy Spirit. Well, you can't
Right.
tell me, well, okay, well, thanks for your help. But did you know you're doing the same thing? So, buddy, pot, kettle,
It's hard
black.
to receive it from a spouse, I think. If
Yeah,
it's a blind spot
sometimes.
and somebody else's, that's why I think it's good for me to have a spiritual coach or, you know, my sister-in-law or somebody, you know, that can confirm what Caleb might be saying.
Yeah. Well, again, if you do it right, and you know, learn to give up the need to be right without losing your passion for truth, and conversations go really well. You know, one of the things I did with Sandra was, would you give me the 5 things that, you know, when your dad was walking you down the aisle, you ready? And he was telling her, it's not too late, it's not too late. No, seriously. Okay. I said, when you were walking down and your dad was saying that to you, you had this vision in your brain of that knight in shining armor up there. What do I have to do to be that?
Right. I love
You know?
that.
And what if both spouses ask that question to each other? Give me 5 things, 3 things, whatever it is, that if I did those, you would say, man, I got the husband I thought I would get. I got the wife I wanted. But anyway, so that's a way of doing it. So you're
So
asking
good.
for that feedback.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not waiting on them. But
Right.
if you are going to go give it, remember, hey, Brittany, I may be wrong. Caleb, I'm giving you. This
The
may be
delivery is
me.
everything.
You know, it may be me.
Right.
You know, pre-forgiveness.
Right.
I love you enough to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And
but
I'm going
we
to tell
know-
you how
yeah.
I feel. This is my truth. It may not be your truth, but this is
Yeah.
how I feel. Well, if both people can have those conversations that way, yeah, you can have it with your spouse just like you can have it with anybody else.
No, that's,
Compliment sandwich.
wow. Well,
And I don't do that. I hate
No,
that. I
that's
hate that
bad.
whole strategy. So
no,
please
but I
don't
think
do that.
that's really good. That's also similar to what one of the things that John Delaney talks about a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Which is he's mentioned that. That's like, I almost felt like we never heard that before. And a couple of years ago,
Oh, could you say that differently?
we happened upon the tools
Yeah.
of just like, it seems so stupid. It's like we've been married for, 18 years. And it's like only in the last couple of years did that, at least for me, did that kind of click. And you've told us stuff before, and we've had probably other counselors say it.
For
And
real,
it didn't,
we That's a long time to not. It just recently started to click for us.
Like about the,
Isn't that wild?
hey, what could I do? What am I missing to be a better husband? It's like, that should have been the first question on day one. And it's so simple, but it's like, I swear, like even people on the John Delaney show are like, oh, yeah, wow, that's interesting. Like married couples don't do that. They're not like, what could I do to be better?
Yeah.
And even just 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 things.
Ford's
If you
like, you
got 5,
knuckleheads, I've been telling you this for 20
like
years.
for
But hang on. We've been married over 45 years, and we're still learning.
right.
So
Same.
don't anybody out there think, Ford and Sandra have this perfect marriage.
Yeah.
I'm married to darn near close to perfect wife.
Yeah,
and
same.
so we have a shot. But we still make mistakes.
Yeah.
We still have slip-ups. The question is, how fast can you talk about them? Can you not go to sleep at night
Right.
without having that conversation if I cause pain? I've gotten so good at knowing when I cause pain, I can see it. Well, when I can see it, I may not know what I did because we're clueless as men often. But now I can say, honey, I don't know what I did. Could you tell me? Where used to, she'd say, I'm not going to tell you. You can't not know. Honey,
Yeah.
But once she experimented, and I went, how could I not know that?
Yeah.
She went, what? I said, you're right. How could I not know it? But because of that, because that really happened the first time, now when you say, what just happened? Because in marriage, we may keep doing those things. Because if one of us thinks the other one can't not know, and so we don't say it, and we just keep doing it, and we truly don't know we're doing it. But another thing on this whole gas tank emptier, because it can happen in a marriage, and I've been diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, and so for years when I would have these bouts, it's easy to slip back into that old behavior. When you're having this bout where you can hardly get out of bed, you get self-centered, you get selfish, your lust brain starts going nuts again. But the more I could have those conversations, even during that season with Sandra, the more she couldn't understand it. I don't ever want her to understand it because you can't unless you've had it. Okay, can't understand a concussion unless you've had one. Right. But in all of this, if you feel that gas tank going down, or if you see someone you love that you see the gas tank going down, one of the tools you could give them is what we call a T-chart. And this T-chart, you'll see it here, it says gas tank fillers and emptiers. And on one side, you'll write all the things that fill your tank, and on the other side, write the things that empty your gas tank. That's people, places, activities, foods like, ice cream, great tank filler. For at least a few minutes.
Graders.
Yeah, well, I'm a Bluebell guy, but that's okay. But if you'll do that, and you'll start spending more time, more energy and effort on the people, places, activities, and foods that fill your tank, and less time with the ones that empty your tank, you'll see your tank start getting full. And here's the interesting part. Your spouse is going to be on both sides. Your children are going to be on both sides.
Yep.
Your biggest joy and your biggest issue, okay? The key is, can we implement enough communication, VP MOSA, Waddle Model, Be Still, all the stuff that we're talking about in that family, where let's say that the first time you fill it out, Brittany, over here on the emptier side, Caleb's name's about this big, okay? And on the filler side, let's say his name's about this big. Well, over in your children, well, if our goal is to be sure that his name is this big on the filler side and this big on the emptier side, and with our children, what can we walk out to make that happen?
Yeah.
And that works with employees, it works with everybody.
Yeah.
But we want to get to the place where we're okay if we need to push the eject button on somebody.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Bless and release.
Yeah, if they truly are going to always be an emptier, there's a time that you just have to say, this relationship's just not for me.
That's been huge for us.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can attest that much better. And that doesn't mean you don't, you pray for your enemies, bless your enemies. It doesn't mean that we're in a relationship every single day with them. And I think that part of sometimes what I do, my gift and my curse is hold on to relationships and people longer than I should. Now that
loyalty.
It's loyal. I'm very, very loyal.
It's a great thing, right? But it could become, like I said earlier, it could become your biggest liability if you're not careful. So a fun fact for us is recently we've been SHRM approved.
Oh, nice.
HR, where they can come to a live event. They can get our story path, that text thing that we talked about. They can get it every day as a drip, or they can go into TLOD, which I know y'all use a lot here, okay? But I'm only pointing that out to say, when they hear that we can give you a tool that you never have to fire anybody again,
Right.
and you never have to keep anybody you don't want,
Yeah.
they light up,
You
Right.
unhire yourself.
you know, and so.
Sounds crazy probably to some people.
Well, at first they're like,
It's
that's
true.
not possible. And
Right.
we're saying, well,
Yeah.
come find out, we'll show you.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Oh, and I tell you what, you do not want to role play with Ford Taylor because he will eat you alive.
Well, because I want
I'll
you to
tell you
get
who does it really well, Neil Collinsworth.
Oh, I bet he does.
He is so good. All right, go ahead.
And we're doing it next month with your whole
I
team
love
again.
it.
You know that, right?
We
That's
should have
awesome.
a show, take the camera.
So let's start with this chart
All right.
called the high performing team chart.
Okay.
And so you want everybody on your team's on this chart. Mm-hmm. You could do one for your family, you can do one at work. But in this chart, it's 4 quadrants. And at the top, it says high individual performers. At the bottom, it's low individual performance. Dad joke, lip service, LIP. Anyway, to the right, you ready? You got healthy relationships. On the left, you got unhealthy relationships. Well, we want all of our people in the upper right-hand quadrant.
Okay.
Okay? But if they're in the lower right-hand quadrant, they might be strong relationally. They might really buy into the culture,
Yeah.
but they may not be able to get their job done.
Right.
So transactionally, they need some help. In the upper left-hand column quadrant, this is the hardest for people to deal with because often their biggest producer, their highest performer, is also the unhealthiest relationally. And a lot of CEOs struggle with dealing with these people. Okay? And then on the lower left-hand quadrant, you got unhealthy relationships and low performance. They're easy to deal with. Okay? But all 3 of these quadrants, our goal as leaders is to get them up in the upper right-hand quadrant. And so if you get a lean outer, you'll notice down here, these are lean outers.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't give them a lot of time to get up there.
Right.
Very short. These people are probably lean inners. Culturally, they're strong. They get along with people, but they need some job performance help to get them up here. Over here, these people need, who knows, anger management, some kind of self-identity issues, whatever it is that's causing them not to move. But if you can move these are lean outers. Way up here, down here, they might be on the border of lean inner and lean outer. But when you have an inner core team, like your management team, and people trust you, there's a group around you called the core. And they're completely bought into the vision, they're bought into the culture, everything. There's where you talked about earlier about that 3 to 5%. Once you get that to 16 or 30, it's done. You are now off and running. Everybody else now starts feeling weird that they're not bought in. Okay? And you've done that. Okay? But here's the thing about a lean outer. The tool I'm about to show you of how to get them either in this quadrant or out of the company, and we're going to make it their choice. If you get them out of the company, you got gold. You get them to move over here, you got platinum. Because they'll bring lean outers with them. They'll bring others. So if you get one lean outer to shift, they'll bring other lean outers with them. And how do you do that? Well, we have this tool that we call a success plan or discipline model. And the difference in what we teach and what most people teach is discipline. The definition is training to elicit a certain pattern or behavior. And so if you can use the word training, now you're not feeling guilty over punishment. And so the first thing we say is put a success plan in place. You know, that they know exactly what it is they have to do. And if they can do it, you're done. If they can't do it, then you come back and you go to the next level, which is what we call the discipline model. And we teach people to do it with stories and questions. You don't go into a room and say, you're doing this wrong. You ask them questions to get them to say that they're not doing something right or they're misbehaving. And once you get
Inside
to that,
baseball right now for our team.
yeah, exactly. Okay. Once you get that agreement, then you write down, okay, so let's talk about what that means. So you're going to have this long to get this fixed.
Yeah.
And we're going to get together, let's just say 30 days. We're going to get back together in 30 days and see how you're doing. If they've done it, high five them, congratulations, this is still in your file. If they haven't, you're going to go to that last meeting. Same kind of meeting. You know, have you been on time? Did we agree that you had to be on time 21 out of 22 times this month?
Yes or no questions.
Were you? It's still, it's just questions, okay? And we tell people don't go down rabbit trails, all kinds of training within this, but just high level right now. And then, well, let's just be clear. This is the third time we've talked about it. We had the success meeting. We had discipline meeting number 1. And now this is the third time. So let's make it real simple. It's your choice. If you can do this, we want you here. If you can't, the next meeting won't be with me. But you get to choose. And I've used this terminology. I won't lose sleep at night. This is between you and your spouse. I'm not making this decision for you whether you keep your job or not. You're going to make it. Real simple. You're on time, you get to keep your job, or whatever it is. You stop yelling at your employees, you get to keep your job. You keep yelling at them, you get to go yell somewhere else.
Right.
But my point is, that's how you deal with these people, but you do it with questions and stories, not with accusations. And it works with kids.
It's great for kids.
And the earlier the kids learn this,
Yeah.
guess what? They learn how to make decisions when they get out of the house. They know the difference in right and wrong. When you're yelling at your kids, you're grounded for 2 weeks, and you come back and say, well, it really wasn't that bad. It's only 3 days. Well, that's hard for a kid to adjust to. And then they grow up going, well, is that really a 3-day crime? Or is it a 2-month crime? Or is it a 3? And so they can't make their own decisions when they get out of the house because they're confused on exactly what is right or wrong and how bad is it. But when you raise them that way early and they get used to picking their own consequences, guess what?
Yeah.
When the pain is staying the same, exceeds the pain of change, their behavior will change.
We built the consequence ladder. So they built it together. First offense, warning. Second, you're doing your siblings' chores. If you're fighting with your sibling, you're going and cleaning their entire room. Anyways, it's all laid out. It's crystal clear.
Yeah.
And Asher just got this really crazy Power Wheel thing. It goes way too fast. He's supposed to wear a helmet for his birthday a couple days ago.
I think I saw that on video.
Probably.
And he's riding around,
One
and
of his
his
stories.
cousins in the neighborhood don't have their helmets on, and I'm livid. I'm like, Asher Miller? He comes in, he goes, I thought I got a warning. I'm like, you're right. All right, next time, that thing's gone for 24 hours. But it was fine. It was it takes all the emotion out of discipline. It's just hey, literally, we have it printed. And even when Nana comes over, we'll hand it to Nana. We're here's just so you know, they know this is what happens in this house. If they don't make their beds in the morning, if they don't do this, if they get on technology first, they go straight to this. She's like, thank you for printing this for me. It was great.
And what's fun is they came up with it.
They came up with it.
I mean, you did it with them.
Yeah.
But
Together.
they agreed to it. So guess what?
It made our lives. We rolled it out about a year ago.
It's night and day.
Night and day.
It's the same in a company.
Yeah,
If
it was
they
awesome.
help come up with it, they're now bought into it.
Yeah, and
That's
on
awesome.
on parenting, the definition of was just such a game changer for people listening. For me, it changed my life. Just discipline, training to elicit a response, right, is so different than punishment. Punishment's about me and feeling good. And they embarrass me in
that's
the
huge.
grocery store, I'm going to smack them and tell them to be quiet, versus actually disciplining them and training them. Here's why we can't do that for the 1,000th time today. It's a lot easier to do the punishment. It's a lot less time and stress. Or do I explain it for the 1,000th time, in the last 3 seconds, that here's why we don't do this. So discipline versus punishment in the training, it's a game changer for parenting. There's so much good stuff in there. Ford, I mean, we could talk all day, every day about all the things you've done in our lives and everybody else all over the world's lives.
For 2 hours here in 10 minutes.
Right. Thank you for coming on the podcast. You're changing lives all over the world. Changed our lives here in Cincinnati. You've changed people's lives in the restaurant group. I got the privilege of going in a couple countries with you and a couple other places and tagging along and assisting you, helping. I don't know if I did much when I was there, but I learned a lot and had fun. We had a good time helping some people. And so we're so thankful for you in our lives. We're so thankful that you came on today. I mean, we'll have to have you back and talk about whatever tools that we missed if you have some time. And you've done so much for us and our family. We're very thankful for you.
I know you got to go give somebody else some of that wisdom. Thank you for being on the 5-Star podcast and making our marriage and our lives and our kids, even Papa Ford, Colin, everything. We thank you so much. And we definitely have to have you back. So you'll be a reoccurring guest here for everybody.
Yes.
And if you're listening or watching, take him up on the TL that you can text, do it. It'll change your life. And we'll also put all your handles and all your contact, all your information on the podcast. Thank you for being on the 5-Star podcast.
It's been always a joy and a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Love you.
I love you too.
Love you. Thank
Thank you.
you.